The last planes leave Afghanistan as we now start to wonder how many people were actually left behind. So we'll go over some of that. We'll figure out what's going on in Afghanistan and what's coming on back into this country as we finish everything off. In other news, Madison Cawthorn calls bloodshed as he talks about what's happening with the people who are detained over the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. The Florida Department of Education withholds funds from 2 counties over mask mandates, so we'll talk just a bit about that. And the recall is in full force, and all the leftoid Californians are in full panic mode over what this could mean. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, hey, hey. Do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and boy, oh boy, if you thought ending a 20-year war was going to make peace in this country, boy, oh boy, do I have news for you, you guys. It's been quite the cluster F, I'm not going to lie. I mean, we look into all this stuff here, we look at everything that's going on, and some of the things, the bungling that came out of this administration, you'd almost think that the war isn't over yet, but the last military plane is left, so we'll talk just a bit about that. But before we get into any of this, the finance or anything else that happened over in Afghanistan, head on over and check out some of my friends from our new upcoming project, which has yet to be named here. You can go check out great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, which thank you, Wyatt, for coming by and helping us out last night. That was awesome. It was a great interview. I hope you guys go back and check out. The video is on demand over on YouTube and will be shortly over on BitChute.com. Go and check that out. Also, check out The Porch Boys, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. Head on over there, check out all those shows. R-Rated Conservative also has a new video back up because they came back temporarily. I don't believe they are on YouTube though. So I will go check into that, but we'll go check the videos on demand for that as well. But go check out all those great programs. They're great guys to have around, and if you go and watch them, you can help me support great creators. All right, let's start in with your finance for the day here. Looking in first at Google's chart of the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones dropped about 0.16% yesterday, 55 points, so it wasn't a significant loss. It did stay up through most of the day. It dropped at the beginning of the day, then stayed up through the majority of the day, and then kind of just tumbled off at the end. So that's what we're seeing. I'm sure that the Afghanistan pullout and the backlash that came from that had something to do with that, because as everything was starting to come and tumble down, at about 3 p.m. was about the time we were finding out that the last military plane had left. And as much as the mainstream media is trying to downplay it right now, it did leave with American civilians still over there, begging to be let back over to this country. So we will talk just a bit about what's going on with that later on. Your Bitcoin is at $47,922 US dollars and 60 US cents. That is a slight uptick over yesterday, where we were at 47,512 US dollars. So very slightly uptick there. It looks like we may be, well, holding steady enough at this point. It's not really a big jump. It's not really a big drop. It's just kind of there. So that's what we'll see off your Bitcoin. Your scrap metal prices certainly had some jumps here. All coppers appear to be up. Many of your steels appear to be down, many different kinds of steel. And your aluminum is mixed. Siding is down, radiators are up, rims are up, sheet aluminum is down. So aluminum is sitting mixed. Your catalytic converters are coming back up too. So a lot of motion in the metal markets coming up today here. And once again, I mean, that's one of the things that you see is this is where it goes for the bottom. Because when a lot of people are poor, when a lot of people are hurting, they're finding every can, every piece of copper pipe that they tossed out, every piece of aluminum siding, every piece of metal they can find around the house and bringing it in. So that's going to affect where your prices are going, plus the demand for the materials as the manufacturing process goes up in this country and around the world. So that's what you're seeing with your metal prices up here today. Let's check in with IBD, see what it is they have to say. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before they kick an advertisement at us. Not yet. Dow Jones lags as Apple pops, Moderna dives as CDC muses vaccine boosters. Facebook passes buy point. This is from Michael Larkin. This is from later on in the afternoon yesterday, so we don't have a big futures update yet, but we will see what's going on with that. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lagged the NASDAQ and ended up closing lower. Moderna and BioNTech took a dive as there's your advertisement. I told you it was coming. Okay. Anyway, Moderna and BioNTech took a dive as CDC panel examined the COVID vaccine booster shots. Meanwhile, Apple made an all-time high while Facebook passed a buy point. A number of other stocks tried to break out. Leaderboard stock, Mercado Libre, Matson, and Verve Therapeutics all moved towards buy points. The NASDAQ was the leading major index, rising 0.9%. PayPal was the top performer. The long-term leader, rising 3.6% amid reports it is looking into offering a stock trading platform to U.S. customers. That would be interesting. Another Robinhood, but in PayPal. I think your day is just a little bit late there, you guys. The S&P 500 also inched higher, posting a gain of 0.4%. However, it closed off highs. Etsy was one of the stars here, rising 3.5%. The S&P 500 sectors closed mixed, but there were more winners than losers. Real estate and technology fared the best, while energy and financials lagged the most. Small caps struggled amid the weaknesses in financials, with the Russell 2000 falling 0.4%. Growth stocks performed strongly, however, with the Innovator IBD 50 ETF powering up 1.2%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lagged the other major indices and ended up finishing down 0.2%. Apple stock was the top stock in the Dow Jones today, rising about 3%. It hit an all-time high intraday and closed at a record level. The stock is currently in a buy zone from a 148 entry. The company is gearing up for iPhone 13 launch next month, while Apple electric vehicle is also rumored to be in the works. It was up amid disputed claims the new iPhone could offer satellite communications. American Express was the worst performer, meanwhile falling 2.6%. Boeing and Goldman Sachs were also among other laggards. So that's what we are seeing right now as far as what happened yesterday. It was kind of a mixed bag with everything else off of here. Of course, there's no mention about what happened in Afghanistan, but I'm sure that was part of what was weighing on the risks of everything. Plus the fact that I think people are starting to look at this vaccine thing and saying, hey, you said that if we got vaccinated, we'd never have to wear masks again and this would all be over. And all we had to do was pressure our neighbors and our conservative friends into going and getting the jab. What the fuck? What the fuck do you mean we have to get another booster shot every 5 months? What's going on here? I think there is a little bit of distrust that's starting to form, even among the most ardent leftists. But that's what we see coming out of that. Let's grab one from the Motley Fool and let's get into the big news of the day. 3 of the Dow's worst performing stocks over the trailing year are now screaming buys. From Sean Williams. For the past 125 years, the iconic Dow Jones Industrial Average has been one of the stock market's most consistent measures of success. Initially comprised of 12 companies, the Dow Jones now contains 30 multinational stocks, nearly all of which are profitable, time-tested businesses. Although Dow stocks aren't often the fastest growing, this hasn't hurt the index's ability to reach new highs. 2 weeks ago, the Dow hit an all-time high of 35,625. To put this figure into some context, the Dow has doubled in value since October of 2016. On a trailing 12-month basis, it was up 25% through August 27th, but not all stocks can be winners. Over the trailing year, 4 of the Dow's 30 components have moved lower. The thing is, 3 of these 4 worst performing stocks, Amgen, now look like screaming buys. Merck, generally speaking, healthcare stocks have fared exceptionally well since the coronavirus pandemic took shape. That's because healthcare is a highly defensive sector. Diseases and ailments occur regardless of how well or poorly U.S. and global economy are performing. That means a pretty steady stream of drug, device, and service demand within the healthcare space. Unfortunately, pharmaceutical stock Merck didn't get the memo. Over the trailing year, shares of Merck shed almost 7%, making it the 3rd worst performing stock in the Dow. I can offer 2 guesses why Wall Street hasn't been satisfied with this pharmaceutical juggernaut. First, Merck chose to discontinue its development of a coronavirus disease 2019 vaccine treatment in January after the company cited an inferior immune response to patients with natural infections. Considering how we've witnessed multiple waves of COVID-19 infection in the US and globally, the lack of a vaccine from Merck may be viewed as a missed opportunity. So that's one of them to watch for as it goes on here. Verizon, the second downtrodden stock that's been begging to be bought by investors, is wireless telecom giant Verizon. As most tech stocks have soared, Verizon shares have retreated close to 8%. If not for Amgen, it'd be the worst performing Dow component over the past 12 months. Why the underperformance? One possibility is investors aren't giving defensive plays the time of day at this moment. Historically, low ending rates, ongoing quantitative easing from the Federal Reserve, and a free-spending Capitol Hill have lit a fire under growth stocks and equities in general. Over the trailing year, 15% of more than 4,100 securities with at least $300 million market cap listed on FinViz are up at least 100%. A relatively slow mover like Verizon simply can't stay on momentum chasers' radars. The other potential concern is Verizon's debt load following AT&T's May announcement that it would combine Warner Media and Discovery to create a standalone media giant, and that it would reduce the dividend for its remaining wireless operations to address its debt. Wall Street has been leery of high debt loads in the telecom space. But they are continuing their rollout of 5G, and plus, with all the vaccines out there, even though vaccines definitively do not improve 5G cell reception, honk honk Susan, they seem to be the leader into this, and they could be in a buy. All right, last one, Salesforce. The third and final underperforming stock. Should come as a surprise to just about everyone. Cloud-based customer relationship management software Salesforce. Over the trailing 12-month period, Salesforce is down 4%, which is the fourth worst performance in the Dow. Considering that growth stocks have skyrocketed across the board, it's definitely a head-scratcher as to why Salesforce has effectively run in place over the past year. The best guess I can offer is that Wall Street has been concerned about how the pandemic would impact retail sales. CRM software, which is used by consumer-facing businesses to improve client relationships, is most commonly deployed within the service and retail industries. As long as variants of the coronavirus keep cropping up, retail sales activity could be somewhat muted. But as previous recessions have demonstrated, a dip in Salesforce is always a buying opportunity. That, and this is not official financial advice, actually would be one that I would look into if I was looking to go into the stocks brand new at this point. I would be looking into Salesforce because at some point, as much as the government is trying to tell you that, yes, you should be always panicked, yes, you should always believe that the worst is about to come, as much as the government wants you to believe that right now, this is going to end at some point, and people are going to want to be back out there again. And eventually, people are going to tell the government to go and fuck itself. So that's what I see coming back up off of this. We will see where this goes. I would actually look into Salesforce myself if it was me, but this is not official financial advice. Make sure that before you do anything, you go back and check with your financial advisor to see if Salesforce is right for you. But I definitely would be looking into it if it was me. All right, with that, let's go ahead and check in on the big news of the day here, starting with the New York Post. Last U.S. planes leave Kabul airport, ending Afghanistan war. This is from Samuel Chamberlain and Stephen Nelson. The last American evacuation flights left Kabul's international airport Monday, ending the longest U.S. war weeks shy of its 20th anniversary. But with hundreds of American citizens and thousands more Afghan allies left behind. General Frank McKenzie Jr., the head of the U.S. Central Command, told reporters that the last U.S. C-17 departed Hamad Karzai International Airport at 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:59 Kabul time. Ooh, you're right on the wire. Well, 24 hours before the wire is. But yeah, you're right on that wire. You're going to be 24 hours ahead. The last manned aircraft is now clearing the airspace above Afghanistan, McKenzie said. In a written statement, President Biden, who initially set a deadline of September 11th for all American forces to withdraw from Afghanistan, then moved up to August 31st, praised U.S. service members for their unmatched courage, professionalism, and resolve. The White House said Biden would address the nation at 1:30 p.m. Tuesday on why he did not extend the deadline, despite hundreds of U.S. citizens still stranded. And by the way, that he say 1:30 p.m. Tuesday Eastern Time, that means it's probably going to be about 4 or 5, maybe 6. Maybe 7 o'clock. I don't know. It'll be whenever they get to pump him full of fucking drugs and get him out there where he can say, it was totally my thing that I ended the longest war in history, and the Orange Man was bad, and that's why it was so botched. Come on, man. I told him I was going to send Corn Pop over there. He's a real bad dude. And I walked out there with a chain, and son of a bitch, they did what I said. Come on, man. For now, I will report that this was the unanimous recommendation of the Joint Chiefs of all of our commanders on the ground to end our airlift mission as planned, Biden said in the statement. Their view was that ending our military mission was the best way to protect the lives of our troops, man. Come on, man, and secure the prospect of civilian departures for those who want to leave Afghanistan in the weeks and months ahead. The president also insisted that the Taliban had made commitments on safe passage and the world will hold them to their commitments. It will include ongoing diplomacy in Afghanistan and coordination with partners in the region to reopen the airport, allowing for continued departure for those who want to leave and delivery of humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan. The Associated Press reported that celebratory gunfire, not celebrity gunfire, Most celebrities live in California. They look at a gun, unless it's the prop for the movie they're doing, and they go, oh no! Erupted across Afghanistan's capital city early Tuesday as the Taliban marked the departure of U.S. forces. Let's drop the music down here a little bit. Are we doing celebratory gunfire, or is that the Iron Dome system? Is that U.S. munitions that are going up? Are we paying for this? Actually, we probably already did pay for this, unfortunately. But such is life. The last 5 aircraft have left. It's over, said one fighter, Himad Shirzad. I cannot express my happiness in words. A 20-year sacrifice worked. American soldiers left the Kabul airport, and our nation got its full independence, declared Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid. In total, McKenzie said, more than 79,000 civilians had been flown out of Kabul airport on U.S. military aircraft since August 14th, including 6,000 Americans and 73,500 Afghans and third-country citizens. The number of evacuated civilians grew to more than 123,000 when accounting for those flown out by members of the U.S.-led coalition. We did not get everybody out that had wanted to get out, McKenzie acknowledged, while saying that diplomatic measures would now be employed to get out the estimated low hundreds of Americans left on the ground. The commander emphasized that while every single U.S. service member is now out of the country, not all Americans wanted to leave. There are Americans for a variety of reasons who want to stay for a while, McKenzie said, adding that efforts to rescue Americans from Taliban-controlled territory ended about 12 hours before the last flight departed. In an interview Sunday with ABC News' This Week, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken acknowledged that there were about 300 American citizens left who have indicated to us that they do not want to leave. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. Balderdash. Malarkey. Crap. Caca. I don't believe you. And I don't believe the number is as low as 300 either, by the way. Because, I mean, I look at this now, and I look at the fact that what Seth Moulton goes over there and witnesses. And now, I didn't witness it. But Seth Moulton has gone over there, and he says this is a shit show, and there's no way that we can do this. I want to know how many people are actually left over there, and what the circumstance is that they're left over there for. We did not get everyone out that we wanted to get out. Why not? You had plenty of time. This is a failure. This is a failure. And yes, now we have to rely on diplomacy, working with diplomats that and I don't know why we have diplomats in that country right now either, but now we have to rely on diplomacy to get through this situation and go and figure out how to get the rest of the people out of there. This is botched. And it's not just the people either. I mean, we're going to talk about the dogs. We're going to talk about some of the soldiers, the equipment coming down the road here. But, I mean, yes, we're stopping our operations 24 hours before we had to stop our operations. The Taliban gave you 24 more hours. And you can't go in and get those last 300 people out in 24 hours? Are you fucking kidding me? What's the deal? What's going on? Why are there soldiers leaving before you have the last of your civilians out of here? And how many people actually did want to get out that weren't allowed to get out from the Afghanistan population as well? How many Afghans do we owe some sort of debt to now that have to call on the debt? Why couldn't we at least get them to Qatar, a safe third country? And I'm not really big on saying, okay, let's go run everybody over here. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. But, I mean, Qatar is willing to take refugees en masse. I don't see a success in this. I really don't. This is bullshit. This is absolute 100% bullshit. But they're still going to come back out here to try to tell you that this was a massive success. The red-haired bobblehead will probably be out on the stage later on today saying, I'll circle back to this, and we'll definitely circle back to go and get some of the rest of the people out of here, and we'll circle back with our diplomatic ties. Fuck this. This is bullshit. This is crap. And you know what? If this was going from the other admin, I would be saying this was crap as well. You guys know me. I was able to call out the crap when it happened. But that's what we see coming back up out of this. And it's a load of bullshit. Now, after I get angry, now we get to read from one of our fan favorites here, NPR. The final U.S. military plane left Afghanistan as America's longest war ends. This is from Scott Newman, Deepa Shivaram, and Vanessa Romo. And remember, NPR needs your money. They need you to donate everything you have because your tax dollars are not enough to keep them afloat. They need to spread those sweet, sweet communist ideals around the country. So make sure you're going over there, hitting that big red donate button because NPR, National Progressive Radio, it's not your money, comrade, it is our money. Let's see what they have to say over here. The last U.S. plane departed Afghanistan's Hamid Karzai International Airport a few hours before dawn, marking the end of America's longest war and leaving the country's future in disarray and uncertainty under Taliban rule. President Biden praised the military for the execution of the dangerous retrograde from Afghanistan as scheduled, in a statement released by the White House Monday evening. He also noted ongoing diplomatic efforts to help Americans or Afghan partners who still need to leave Afghanistan, saying he will address the nation on Tuesday about the decision to withdraw by August 31st. I was told that everybody would be out. Why is there still a diplomatic effort? I was told, come on, man, no, just don't make me do stuff, man. Come on, man. We'll have everybody. I promise you. Come on, man. We'll have everybody out by August 31st. No malarkey, no exceptions. The final days of the U.S. presence in Afghanistan were filled with chaos, bloodshed, desperation, fear, and panic as troops attempted to stave off attacks by ISIS-K while trying to coordinate a massive exodus of people out of the country. More than 2,400 U.S. troops lost their lives in Afghanistan, including 13 who were killed in a suicide attack near the Kabul airport last week. And in the end, nearly 20 years of engagement was punctuated with the destruction of munitions and equipment by U.S. troops hours before they flew out of the battle-scarred country. Really? Why does the Taliban have it all then? If we destroyed it all, why does the Taliban have all of it? Tens of thousands of Afghans were also killed in the war, and those who survived now face an uncertain future under a repressive Taliban regime, the same regime that provided safe haven to Al-Qaeda and that the U.S. set out to topple after 9/11. Which I don't understand that either. A Taliban spokesman congratulated the country on the liberation and independence of Afghanistan from American occupation. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken outlined America's engagement in Afghanistan going forward, calling it a new chapter in which we will lead with our diplomacy. Blinken said that with the embassy in Kabul now shuttered, the new embassy would be based in Qatar and provide consular and other services. According to most recent counts, he said under 200, probably closer to 100, U.S. citizens who hope to leave remain in Afghanistan. It's unclear how many Afghan people who worked with as allies to the U.S. are still trapped by the Taliban. However, Blinken did offer some comfort to them, saying, "Our commitment to them has no deadline." Really? You just left them there. You promised that all Americans would be out of the country by August 31st. And you reneged on that promise too. This is not going to turn out well for you. Our commitment to them has no deadline. Yeah, your commitment to them has no deadline. But you're not in control of the country that now houses them. A key component of that plan is holding the Taliban to its pledge to allow all those who want to leave safely and securely, Blinken said. That includes the reopening of Kabul's airport with significant assistance from Qatar and Turkey. Yeah, you should have thought of that before you blew up a car in the middle of the street and killed 6 people. That had nothing to do with what you tell us was in the car. Blinken also underscored the tenuous relationship between the U.S. and Taliban, repeating that what many other officials have said about the Taliban's trustworthiness. Every step we take will be based not on what the Taliban government says, but what it does to uphold its commitments. General Frank McKenzie, commander of the U.S. Central Command, said more than 123,000 civilians were flown out of the country. Okay, what about the other 300? In a coordinated effort by the U.S. and its allies, calling it a monumental accomplishment. A U.S. official also said that today that 6,000 people who self-identified as American were American. The official said the number of Americans left in Afghanistan is below 250. So yes, let's brag about the 123,000 people we got out of there. And let's just talk about it's only 250 people we left behind. That's nothing on the blip of the radar. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off with that. Every single American service member is now out of the country, McKenzie told reporters on Thursday, and no evacuees were left at the airport when the last flight took off. McKenzie said in the final hours of America's military presence on the ground, the Taliban were very pragmatic and very businesslike. He said they established a firm perimeter outside the airfield and were helpful to U.S. forces in concluding military operations on the ground. Despite the end of military presence, McKenzie echoed other administration officials who emphasized in recent days that diplomatic efforts to get more Americans and American allies out of Afghanistan will continue. U.S. officials have said that Taliban forces, who now control Afghanistan's borders and airspace, have been told that anyone who wants to leave should be able to do so peacefully. So, this is another, and this is National Progressive Radio, so they are going to do the bidding of the Biden admin no matter what. And this is another one we're saying, hey, look how many people we got out of there. Look how great we are because we got these many people. Don't worry about the 250 people we left behind. Look at the 123,000 people. That's what I have to say to that. Biden breaks promise to stay in Afghanistan until every American is evacuated. This is from Fox News, so it's not exactly objective, but we'll still read from it, from Jessica Chasmer. President Biden appears to have broken his promise to stay in Afghanistan until every American is evacuated. Marine Corps General Kenneth McKenzie Jr. announced Monday evening that the last of the U.S. troops stationed in the Kabul airport had left, completing the military's drawdown in the country, even though hundreds of Americans likely still remain. McKenzie, commander of U.S. Central Command, said some American citizens who wanted to leave Afghanistan remained in the country. Laura Logan tweets out from senior U.S. source, house-to-house executions in Kabul following the U.S. military departure. There are no words for what this administration has done to all of us, Afghan and American. Let's have a look. Wow, that's terrifying. We did not get everyone out that wanted to get out, he said. President Biden told ABC News' George Stephanopoulos during an interview on August 18th that the U.S. military objective in Afghanistan was to get everyone out, including Americans and Afghan allies and their families. That's what we're doing now. That's the path we're on. And I think we'll get there. And I think I'm wearing my pants too, he said. If there's American citizens left, well, we're going to stay to get them all out. A senior State Department official told Fox News on Monday that there remained a small number of Americans inside Afghanistan. The official put that number of Americans below 250, adding that some additional Americans have departed Afghanistan in recent hours. The official added that the State Department was also committed to evacuating those who worked with us, referring to Afghan partners. They announced end of the withdrawal came less than a day before the official deadline, agreed to by the Taliban, which was 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, 11:59 p.m. local time in Kabul, U.S. defense officials told Fox News. The Taliban have said they will allow normal travel after the U.S. withdrawal once they assume control of the airport. So, I have questions. I have a lot of questions. Is this actually over? Are we going to see these people actually be let out? Because I have no faith in this. I mean, we essentially went in to Afghanistan to nation build. I know we have the Osama bin Laden thing, and he might have been hiding there, even though they found him in fucking Pakistan. That is assuming that they even found him at all, because there's the other report that he died of a colon failure. Long before any of this, long before the mission 10 years ago to take him back down. And we never saw the body, even though it wouldn't have done anything, because pretty much it would have been a sack of bloody meat filled with 45 and 50 cal and 5.56 and 7.62. That's all we would have got off of that, but it's just dump it over the side of the ship and into the ocean it goes. And we don't get to see any of that either. I have a lot of questions about this. I have a ton of questions about this, and I guarantee you we're not going to get any answers for it. I can't see a world where we get any answers for any of this here. But, going back to the citizens, yeah. Oh, we don't want the Taliban in charge, and they might be housing terrorists, which seems like a good excuse to sit in there for 20 years. 10 years after the bin Laden mission, which may or may not have actually been successful. I don't even know. And we think that these people are going to be kind to our citizens who are still in the country? Are you out of your fucking mind? Seriously, mainstream media, are you dumb? Biden Edmund, did you get hit on the head as a child? If you believe this kind of bullshit? Because I don't believe it. Alright, let's grab Fox 9. Minnesota couple trying to help former foreign exchange student escape Afghanistan, from Courtney Godfrey. While the focus on Afghanistan over the last 2 weeks has been placed on evacuating citizens and allies, thousands more are still trying to get out, with those with ties to the U.S. are now fearing the worst. A Coon Rapids couple is desperately trying to help their former foreign exchange student escape. Every day, Betsy and Thomas Kiekefer are logging onto their computer, hoping that the person on the other end continues to respond. He's trying to stay optimistic, but it's hard, said Betsy Kiekefer. For his safety, Fox 9 isn't showing his face or naming him. In 2010, the man lived with the Kiekefers as a foreign exchange student, graduating high school in Minnesota and going back to Afghanistan to attend the American University. He believes his association with the U.S. makes him a target. He told Betsy in Facebook messages that his attempts to present his paperwork at the Kabul airport have been unsuccessful. He said, If they ask if I tried to get to the airport, I spent one full night outside the gate and it was too crowded to get close, said Betsy Kiekefer. The Kiekefers reached out to several U.S. representatives for help. Congressman Phillips' office told Fox 9 that after they inquired, the young man was placed on a Priority 2 list for Refugee Assistance Program. His visa request is one of many. Phillips' office alone has referred more than 1,600 names to the State Department in the last 2 weeks. With the U.S. leaving the country, they realize the time has got to get out and may be running out. Well, I think that makes it more difficult, but I think there's still hope, said Thomas Kiekefer. For now, they say his plan is to lay low for a few months, waiting for good news. That's probably what a lot of people are going to be doing, trying to avoid as much contact as possible and hope for the best, said Thomas Kiekefer. That's about all we have right now is hope. So, once again, another instance of private charity. Hopefully, this comes out well. I don't know if it will or not. Hopefully, the young man will either get to Qatar or a safe third country or get into the U.S. if it is the fact that this family wants to come back and adopt him out. I don't know if his family will come with him. I don't know what else goes with that, but This family does seem very intent on getting him over here, so we will see what happens with that. All right, from the Daily Wire. GOP rep releases video excoriating Biden. Pelosi, I have constituents trapped in Afghanistan blocked by the Taliban. From Amanda Prestigiacomo. Texas Rep. Ronnie Jackson published a video to Twitter on Monday excoriating the Biden admin and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Jackson said he has constituents trapped in Afghanistan who are receiving no help from the Biden State Department, despite numerous dangerous stops at the Kabul airport. He also slammed Pelosi for her inaction in seeking answers to the disastrous withdrawal. I'm here at the Capitol because there's a crisis going on, Jackson captioned the video. Where is Nancy Pelosi? Americans are still trapped in Afghanistan, including Texas' 13 constituents. Let's actually watch the video and see what it is he had to say.
I'm Congressman Ronnie Jackson. I'm here at the United States Capitol. This is where every member of Congress needs to be in a time of national crisis like we're in right now. I asked Nancy Pelosi, please reconvene Congress. Get us back here. We need information about what's going on in Afghanistan. President Biden has failed this country miserably. We are in an intense national security crisis overseas. Congress needs to be involved in what's happening. We've already had 13 U.S. service members killed. There are others that are in harm's way right now. I have American citizens, U.S. citizens from my district that are stuck in Kabul right now. They have tried numerous times to make it through the checkpoints and get to the gate. They've been at the airport, and the United States State Department has done absolutely nothing to help them. They went this last time at 5 a.m. Kabul time this morning to try one last time to get out. The 15-year-old son was beaten. The mother had a gun put to her head. The Taliban told her that they did not care who she was and they didn't care about her passport. If she came back, they would kill her. This is a travesty. This is not the United States of America that I fought for 29 years to defend. What is going on? This makes my blood boil. I ask Nancy Pelosi, I demand Nancy Pelosi, bring members of Congress back right now. We have to put this to a stop. We have to do something about this crisis, and we have to do it now.
So, I mean, and that's where it is too. And I mean, I've had a discussion with other people about whether or not Nancy Pelosi needs to be impeached. I know that they talked about impeach of Biden and impeach of Harris. I would have a hard time impeaching Harris right now because she has, for the most part, kept her nose out of what's going on with this. She has, I know there's a lot of criticism over the fact she hasn't gone to the border at all. There's a lot of criticism over the fact that she was in Southeast Asia while all this went. But, you know, with her not being to the border and her being in Southeast Asia, there's really no wrong that she can do off of this. She's not calling the shots. She's not in charge. And I hate to drop to left-way tactics to go impeach her. Now, it's not that I wouldn't like the outcome of her being impeached and removed. It's that I don't think it's completely right for us to do so under these circumstances, same with Pelosi. And I have no doubt that both women would, at some point, do something that would screw up and possibly call for their impeachment and removal. I have no doubt that they would do so. They are criminals in their own right, but I mean, to actually hold impeachment to what it is instead of going with left-way tactics and just completely making it partisan in nature, which I think it's going to be for the rest of time, to actually have a crime and a dereliction of duty. Biden has a dereliction of duty, and some could argue a crime in giving the names of the people that they wanted to get out over to the Taliban to make them into a kill list. There's arguably a crime there. But Pelosi and Harris, they can't be accomplices to that crime. They both tried to stay out of the way. But going back to Jackson here, I mean, yeah, these representatives have to realize that a lot of them, with 250 people over there, there's a good chance that a number of them have constituents over in Afghanistan right now that they're trying to represent to the U.S. government. All right, from Politico. As Biden ends mission in Afghanistan, a refugee backlash looms at home. I'll be talking about this for a little while because this is kind of interesting. This is from Anita Kumar. President Biden has faced a torrent of criticism for abandoning Afghan partners as their country fell to the Taliban. Now, there's also a looming political controversy over the thousands of Afghans Biden will end up resettling over here. An increasingly vocal group of Republicans led by Donald Trump, who made immigration restrictions a hallmark of his presidency, opposed the resettlement of Afghan refugees in the U.S., claiming that they could be dangerous or will change the makeup of the country, and they plan to make it an issue in next year's midterm elections, along with broader attacks about Biden's messy withdrawal from Afghanistan. Full stop, bullshit. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say that there was nobody out there that said that this was all about changing the demographic makeup of America, or this is about winning elections forever, or this is about, trying to do something here to destabilize our red areas of the country. Full stop bullshit. I'm sure there are people out there that have said it. I'm sure you go out into rural Texas and probably not throw a rock because there are miles upon miles of space between people. But you could go down to the town square in some rural backwoods Texas town and find somebody that says, "Oh, their Afghani refugees are coming in here to take our jobs." And I don't know where Fort Bliss is in Texas either because I've never been to Texas. Take that back. I've been there once. But regardless, I don't know where Fort Bliss is. I know where Kaufman is, and that's it. But I do know where Fort McCoy is, and I do know some of the attitude that's up there. I'm sure you could throw a rock up in the Fort McCoy area of Wisconsin and have it go nowhere. But you could go down, like I said, into the town square, into a convenience store, or into some sort of gathering place where, like the local town diner, and find one person who'll come out and say, "Oh man, they're taking our jobs. Them Afghan refugees are going to come up and take our jobs." But that's not going to be the majority of this. The majority of this is concern over what the documents say, who is coming in, and versus who says they're coming in. That's going to be the vast majority of the concern about this. Not, "Oh, they're trying to blow up our state. They're trying to make sure they win elections forever." Fuck you. That is not the primary concern of the majority of the people who are going to be affected by this. But that's what Politico is going to tell you, because they're going to tell you that every Republican out there is just a complete racist, and they're mostly afraid of brown people. Oops, had my scroll wheel in the wrong window. One of those Republicans, Matt Rosendale of Montana, said the chaos in Afghanistan should not be an excuse to flood the U.S. with refugees. "We have to make sure that the people that enter our country want to support our country, not want to attack our country," Rosendale said in an interview. He said he plans to urge fellow Republican Governor Greg Gianforte to reject the refugees housed in his state without proof of vetting. Isn't that Governor Body Slam, Greg Gianforte? Isn't that who that is? The White House is moving swiftly to try and tamp down any backlash and avoid the sort of politicization and outrage that plagued efforts to resettle Syrian refugees in 2015 and created havoc in the federal refugee program. Administration officials say they've been working behind the scenes to brief local and state leaders on how extensively refugees are vetted before they step foot on American soil. Refugee organizations, which are working with the administration, are doing the same in communities. Both are conducting media outreach to try and dispel myths on the resettlement process. Biden had planned to meet virtually Thursday with the governors who had offered to temporarily house or help resettle Afghans, but scrapped the event after 13 U.S. troops were killed in a terrorist bombing in Kabul. The next day, the White House announced Biden and the Department of Homeland Security, the lead agency coordinating the relocation of evacuated Afghans to the U.S. A senior admin official said Afghans undergo robust security that includes biometric and biographic security screenings conducted by our intelligence, law enforcement, and counterterrorism professionals who are working quite literally around the clock to vet Afghans before they're allowed in the U.S. In many cases, the refugees are taken to a third country such as Qatar or Kuwait, where they undergo additional screening. So, with that, and of course, There's little evidence that refugees generally lead to rising crime or security threats. Research shows refugees coming to the U.S. in recent decades committed crimes at a lower rate than the general population and were not responsible for any credible threats to the homeland. Well, we'll go over that in a second when we read from the Daily Wire. Alright. From Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Fort McCoy could house as many as 3,000 Afghan refugees by the end of the day Friday. From Laura Schulte. Wisconsin's Fort McCoy could house up to 3,000 Afghan refugees by the end of the day Friday as the U.S. races to evacuate those at risk from Afghanistan. The facility housed about 2,000 refugees Friday afternoon, Republican members of Wisconsin's congressional delegation said during a news conference at the military base, an increase from the 1,000 people that arrived on Sunday. U.S. Reps Tom Tiffany, Brian Stile, and Scott Fitzgerald, Mike Gallagher, and Glenn Grothman briefly toured Fort McCoy, where they met with government officials and those in charge of the intake program. They said they saw children playing with military members on the base, some adults talking on their phones, and people going about their life at the base. We saw what makes our country so great. We saw our troops here providing comfort and aid to individuals who escaped from Afghanistan, Stile said. Well, Stile is kind of a little bitch, so. The group also expressed concern over President Biden's handling of the situation in Afghanistan and how many refugees are being allowed into the U.S. at Fort McCoy. As many as 10,000 people could be housed as the U.S. races to reach its August 31st deadline to remove all of its troops, citizens, and other vulnerable people. All those coming into the U.S. from Afghanistan have gone through security vetting before entering the country, White House officials said on Monday. Upon arrival, all are tested for COVID-19. Those who test positive will have access to space to quarantine. Officials are also working to ensure all refugees have access to COVID-19 vaccines as well. Once the refugees arrive at Fort McCoy, they're subject to a full health exam to ensure their wellness. Fort McCoy is located on 60,000 acres between Toma and Sparta. Oh, I guess I didn't realize it was that big. I mean, I've only ever seen it from the interstate. I didn't join the Army, so I've never had a reason to go into there, but I have seen it from the interstate. I didn't realize it was that massive. Because, you know, from what you can see from 94, it looks like it's like there are a couple barracks and a couple of train stations there. That's all you can see off of there, but 60,000 acres, wow. So, and that was my first concern is, wow, that's probably going to be just a little bit crowded, but for 60,000 acres, that's, okay, they got a little bit of space to spread out. I'll come out and say that. Let's actually just look at a map here for a second. Because I realize that most all of you who are watching this are not going to be familiar with where this is and some of the sheer size of it. Will they give me an outline? That's going to be the question. Okay, so it looks like it's just going to be whatever is going to be in the light gray on this map. It's going to be Fort McCoy. Bring this out to the center here so it's not hiding behind my phone where I can see it. So, yeah. This is what I've seen of Fort McCoy. Okay. And there is more off of this. Wait, I'm not even thinking, I'm thinking in the right place now that I think about this. Okay, never mind. I'm also going to say that I was kind of dumb because I was thinking Camp Douglas, not Fort McCoy. Okay, so I was completely wrong on this because I thought this was somewhere else entirely. I guess I have seen Fort McCoy too, now that I see where it is. I was thinking Camp Douglas. Which, yes, if you were settling 10,000 people here, that would probably get to be a little bit crowded. And this gray area right here, that's the military base I was thinking. But no, the one that it actually is the one that's between the split between 90 and 94. So I probably have seen Fort McCoy off in the distance, but Didn't realize that where it was. So, yeah, you are going to have a little bit more room to spread out than I thought that you were actually going to at first. This is where Fort McCoy is. So instead of, going up 94 like I usually do when I go that direction to go across 90, I would see more of it. And I have gone across 90 and I have seen more of it as well. So, yeah, that's where they're going to house these people. And that's a significant distance between these two as well, by the way. So, yeah, they'll have some room to spread out at least. But once again, you're coming to an area in west central Wisconsin that's, they're going to have questions about this. You're putting a lot of people into a very, very rural area that are not used to Wisconsin winter, that are not used to the weather patterns that are up there, and that are not used to the population, the kind of people that are going to be there. So, well, I guess we'll see what happens with it, but that's where we go. All right, let's go on to the Associated Press. Up to 10,000 refugees expected to come through Wisconsin. It looks like I have no author given on this one. Refugees from Afghanistan have arrived in Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, and up to 10,000 more could be doing so in the coming weeks, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson said Wednesday after meeting with base officials. The base, located about 40 miles east of La Crosse in western Wisconsin, is one of the 3 military installations nationwide that has been processing people evacuated from Afghanistan since the country fell to the Taliban. Johnson, a Republican, visited Fort McCoy along with Republican state lawmakers and some military veterans. Tony Evers was also there separately and met with refugees. U.S. Northern Command General Glenn Van Herk and Major General Paul Knapp, the leader of the Wisconsin National Guard. Our allies from Afghanistan have had a long road ahead of them, and Wisconsin will continue to extend our support and assistance to these individuals who bravely contributed to our country's efforts over the past 2 decades, Evers said in a statement. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, a Democrat from Wisconsin, there's some good fucking news, said that Madison event on voters' rights, that the U.S. has a moral obligation to help those who assisted the country for years in Afghanistan and those who are at risk under a Taliban regime. What are we talking about? VAERS data. VAERS data on the vaccine. I will notate that, and we will probably do that for tomorrow, because we've got a lot to get through today, and 9 o'clock is creeping up on us here. During a news conference at the base, Johnson questioned the status of the refugees being brought there and whether they had been fully vetted. He saw numerous refugees during his visit and got the impression that those who had arrived were happy to be there, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reported. It sounds like the first group of people that arrived are just relieved to have been able to escape Afghanistan. They won the lottery, they're here in America, he said. The vast majority are here wanting what we want, the opportunity to raise families in safety, security, and opportunity. So all this is well and good, and I mean, a lot of people seem happy about this, but there is the innate distrust of our immigration system and our vetting system. And I want to touch on that, not necessarily what happened in this country, but something that is happening in other countries about this. Let's read from the Daily Wire. 7 Afghan refugees detained in Germany, 3 had forged docs, 4 previously deported criminals. Report says. From Ryan Saavedra. Several Afghan refugees that arrived in Germany have been detained by law enforcement officials after some of them presented false paperwork while others were allegedly previously deported criminals. Deutsche Welle, a German public state-owned international broadcaster, reported. 7 Afghans were being detained after being evacuated to Germany. Interior Minister Horst Seehofer told the Bild am Sonntag newspaper. 1 is in custody, 2 are still in the care of the police at the airport, 3 had forged documents with them, and 4 had already been deported from Germany to Afghanistan as criminals. These were serious crimes, Seehofer said. The Biden admin officially ended the evacuation operations from a military standpoint on Monday. As the last flight left the country, officials estimated that there were still hundreds of Americans trapped inside Afghanistan, which sparked intense backlash online because Biden previously promised to keep troops on the ground until all Americans had been evacuated. The military mission is over, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said, addressing the nation on Monday. A new diplomatic mission has begun. And this is what I want to touch on with this, because, I mean, obviously, there's been no green check verified evidence that this has happened here. But you're talking about 10,000 people in one military base, and 10,000 people in another military base, and 10,000 people in a third military base, and that's just the 3 that they're talking about. And who knows how many more they're going to bring over to this country. First and foremost, we do have a safe third country agreement, so I don't necessarily understand why they're coming over here. I mean, the Remain in Mexico policy was forced to be reinstated by the Biden administration, by the Supreme Court. And I would think that that would apply to any other country that's willing to take refugees. It doesn't just have to be what's coming across our border coming from Central America. Qatar is a safe third country. Now, if these people want to immigrate over as actual immigrants, then yeah, fine, go through the process. Go do the process normally. But as far as refugee status, you're already in Qatar. And they said it right off in the Journal Sentinel article too. Well, these people are going to Kuwait and Qatar to be processed and to decide whether or not they fit refugee status or not. Well, they're already in Kuwait and Qatar. As far as I know, those are safe third countries. Which means that coming over to the U.S. would put them on a completely different immigration status. And I mean, I know that my friend Sewell is probably going to be pissed at me for saying this, and I know some of my other ethno-nat friends are going to be pissed at me for saying this, but okay, if they want to go through the process, go through the process. Go become an immigrant. That's fine. Welcome in. Immigrate. Do the documents. Do what the State Department tells you need to do. Actually go through, get your regular visa, and come over here as an immigrant, not a refugee, because you've got a place as a refugee that you can be. But with this, we are going to come, and I really do think this is going to bring us down to another refugee crisis, because, and a lot of this is some of the places that they're trying to settle these people. But first and foremost, and that was the important part of bringing this article up to this, is yes, you have a lot of people coming here. People slip through the cracks. And I'm not saying that every Afghan refugee is going to be some sort of criminal, some sort of terrorist, some sort of this, some sort of that. But we can see from what we saw in Germany that on 100,000 people going to Germany, or however, I don't even know how many people actually went to Germany, but let's say 10,000 for argument's sake. 10,000 people going to Germany, and 7 of them on forged documents that they caught. You don't think those 7 people are going to cause problems? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying the system is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. All right. That's what we have going on with that. Let's grab another one here. From Fox News, nonprofit aiming to rescue dozens of military dogs from Afghanistan report. Sully, I hope you're sitting down for this one, because I know I saw in the chat earlier that this was the one that that really got your goat off of this, from David Aro. Americans and Afghan allies weren't the only ones apparently left behind in the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. A non-profit organization said it was continuing to work Tuesday to help evacuate dozens of contracted military working dogs from the country, according to reports. Joshua Hostler, president of the Veteran Sheepdogs of America, said the organization was given 51 working dogs with the responsibility of getting them out of Kabul. The nonprofit tweeted a photo last week of more than a dozen dog crates in front of a helicopter, which Hostler said was just a fraction of the canines left behind in the U.S. troop withdrawal, according to TMZ. There's a picture of the dog crates in front of the helicopter. Hostler hoped to rescue the working dogs by raising $1.67 million, the cost for a 737 plane out of Kabul, the outlet reported. Early Tuesday, the nonprofit tweeted it had funds for the plane, but an animal rescue organization fell through. So we're scrambling to cover their amount of $500,000 for the $1.67 million, Veteran Sheepdogs of America wrote. Let me see. Let me go check on something here. So I can't find the exact donate for the specific mission that they're trying to do here, but I will put the website in the chat for you guys. This is the organization that's trying to get these sheepdogs out. There's that, if you guys want to go and look at that and see if you can find a way to... I mean, if you want to throw a couple bucks to these guys to help finish their mission, it sounds like it's a good idea. So if you guys want to go and look at that, or if somebody wants to... I think most of the people watching are mods. So if you're a mod on the Twitch side, and DLive and YouTube, I think you can... No, you can't do links unrestricted on YouTube. So, but if you're like on the Twitch side and you can figure out how to do this and get it to where it needs to be, and you want to go and put the specific link, I thank you very much for that. But if you guys want to go and help out with the mission, there is the link to go and do so. Absolutely. Going back onto this. Meanwhile, American Humane, an organization committed to ensuring the safety and well-being of animals, said Monday it was standing by to help transport contract canine soldiers to the U.S. soil and provide for their lifetime medical care. It sickens us to sit idly by and watch these brave dogs who valiantly served our country be put to death or worse, said Robin R. Ganzert, President and CEO of American Humane Society. In a statement, in order to prevent this tragedy from occurring, these canines should be loaded into whatever cargo space remains and flown to safety. On Monday, the Pentagon announced that all U.S. troops have departed from Afghanistan. The final C-17 carrying service members lifted off from the airport at 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time. The removal of U.S. troops met the August 31st deadline. The Biden admin agreed with the Taliban, officially ending America's longest war. So, why leave the dogs behind, yo? Seriously. I don't understand. Well, I do understand. But, yeah, private charity is the best way to do this. So, give Veteran Sheepdogs of America a look. Maybe toss them a couple bucks to go and help this out. Any little bit is going to help these guys to finish out their mission. I'm glad to put the word out there for them. Absolutely am. But it's like Cuomo. Why leave behind the dog? I don't understand. Alright. Let's keep going here. From UN News. Security Council urges Taliban to provide safe passage out of Afghanistan. No author given. 13 of the 15 ambassadors voted in favor of the resolution, which further demands Afghanistan not be used as a shelter for terrorism. Permanent members China and Russia abstained. Well, China's trying to play nicey nice and goody good with the Taliban, so there's that. Countries condemned in the strongest terms the deadly blast at Kabul airport Thursday, which killed more than 150 people and injured upwards of 200 more. The terrorist group Islamic State of Khorasan province claimed responsibility. The attack targeted people fleeing Afghanistan in the wake of the Taliban's takeover 2 weeks ago, and international forces assisting the evacuations. Thousands of Afghans have been trying to escape from the country ahead of the full withdrawal of the U.S. by its self-imposed Tuesday deadline. So that's the UN calling on Afghanistan to do so. Afghanistan, as far as I know, is not a UN member, so pretty sure that they're going to turn around and look at this and look at the demand and say, no, fuck you. No, they were promised they were going to get all their shit out of here by August 31st, and all their shit's still here, along with their people and their dogs. No, fuck that. But you know what, UN? Good luck. Send the fucking blue helmets. From New York Post. Ex-military officers call for Austin Milley to resign over the Afghanistan debacle. From Sam Chamberlain. Dozens of retired generals and admirals have called on the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, to step down, accusing them of negligence in connection with the disastrous U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Yeah, but they're super woke, you guys. Yeah, no, we might have negligence, but guess what? They're super woke. And they're about inclusivity and transgenderism in the military. Super woke, you guys. The signatories, who claim membership from a group called Flag Officers for America, claim Austin and Milley should have recommended against this dangerous withdrawal in the strongest possible terms. If they did not do everything within their authority to stop the hasty withdrawal, they should resign. Conversely, the letter adds that if Austin and Milley fought President Biden's pullout order tooth and nail, they still should resign as a matter of conscious and public statement. So it basically sounds like they just want them to resign. The letter had 87 signatories as of Monday night, including retired Navy Rear Admiral John Poindexter, a former National Security Advisor under President Reagan, Ronnie Jackson of Texas, a former Navy Rear Admiral and longtime White House physician, and retired Army Brigadier General Donald Bolduc, a Republican candidate to represent New Hampshire in the U.S. Senate next year. The letter also calls on Austin and Milley to resign for reasons of leadership, training, and morale, and accuses them of placing mandatory emphasis on PC wokeness related training, which is extremely divisive and harmful to unit cohesion, readiness, and warfighting capability. Our military exists to fight and win our nation's wars and must be the sole focus of our top military leaders, it concludes. So, and I'm kind of in agreement with them. They should be stepping down. They left Americans behind after it promised that the military would not leave until all the Americans got out of the country. There is no leadership there anymore, and the military is demoralized. So with that, we will go on and see what else is coming on from this. From the Hill, we've got a lot of Afghanistan stuff. Actually, we've got this one more that are directly Afghanistan, and one that is indirectly Afghanistan. And then we get to move into other news. From the Hill, Republicans hit Biden over Afghanistan with eye on midterms. From Christina Marcos and Scott Wong. I mean, he's not Wong. I'm going to hell for that one. And you're all coming with me, every one of you who laughed. Republicans in Congress want President Biden out of office after 13 U.S. service members and at least 170 were killed in a terrorist attack during the Afghanistan evacuation. They're calling for his resignation, impeachment, and even for the 25th Amendment to be invoked to end his presidency. Some of the GOP lawmakers pushing for Biden's ouster are familiar Trump loyalists like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a plant, who called for impeachment, Madison Cawthorn, who urged Biden's cabinet to remove him from office via the 25th, and Senator Josh Hawley, who demanded Biden resign. But other Republicans are also calling for this action. Democrat-turned-Republican Rep. Jeff Van Drew introduced a resolution with a dozen colleagues on Friday to censure Biden. Tom Rice, one of the 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach Trump after January 6, called on Biden to resign and turn the job over to someone who could handle it. Well, that's not the next person in line, so careful how you word that one. So did Representative Jackie Walorski, the top Republican on the Ethics Committee, who could run for a leadership post next year. As the president has repeatedly said, the buck stops with him, and I agree, the buck must stop here. President Biden has demonstrated that he's unfit to serve as commander-in-chief and therefore must resign, Walorski said in a statement. Of course, Biden isn't going anywhere, and there's zero chance that House Democrats, led by Speaker Pelosi, would impeach the head of their party, especially at a time when they're trying to enact trillions of spending in domestic programs to expand the social safety net. But in calling for impeachment and resignation, Republicans are trying to demonstrate to their base how they would provide a check on the Biden presidency if voters hand them the House and Senate in 2022 midterm elections. Indeed, many top Republicans see Biden's botched, chaotic, and now deadly handling of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan as a major military and political disaster that will propel the GOP back into power on Capitol Hill. In addition to botched coronavirus response, botched economic recovery, botched inflationary numbers, botched infrastructure, botched budget. The things, man. Republicans only need to flip a net of 5 seats to win back the House. They need to flip just 1 to take the Senate. There's not a member of Congress on either side of the aisle who doesn't think that Republicans will be back in the House majority. Republican Study Committee Chairman Jim Banks of Indiana, an Afghan war vet and leadership ally, told The Hill. But now the Senate is in play too. Voters demand a check on the dangerous and reckless Biden admin. There are other signs Republicans view the tough, sometimes over-the-top rhetoric as good politics, especially at a time of ever-growing partisan polarization, when there's less incentive for them to be voices of moderation. Ambitious lawmakers angling for higher offices are joining the chorus of GOP voices on calling for Biden to resign. That list includes GOP Rep. Lee Zeldin, who is running for governor of New York, as well as Reps. Vicky Hartzler and Billy Long, who are both vying for the GOP nomination for an open Senate seat in Missouri. It's not just these, it's the people. And some of this is just walking down to the people for campaign stuff, because I guarantee a lot of the people who are calling for the ouster of Biden this time are senators who are vulnerable this time. And that is something as well to look at with the Senate map this year, is the fact that under normal circumstances, under normal politics, and normal times, not crisis times like the withdrawal of Afghanistan and the fact that the Delta variant is here, this would be a very, very easy year. 2022 in the Senate would be a very easy year for Democrats. The House, not so much, because statistically, the House always, or the president's party always loses seats in the House. And it was easy enough to say statistically there was going to be a slim Republican majority in the House come this next year. But with this, with the inflation, with everything else, I understand the fact that it's only 7 months in at this point. And we could turn the ship around and get everything back to normal by Election Day 2022. But as of right now, what we've seen in these 7 months, the Senate's in play right now. Even with all the Republicans that are defending seats, because the majority of defended seats this time through are Republican. With all of the defended seats by Republicans in the Senate for this midterm, this might not be as easy of a year for Democrats as we initially thought that it was. This is going to be a drag on the party. And I'm interested to see where this goes for the rest of the Biden presidency. Whether it be until 2024, 2025, or Hong Kong until 2029. Yeah, Arvold, I do like that idea, and I also like the thought of possibly having the president and the vice president elected separately as well, instead of being running mates. Like a lot of governors and lieutenant governors are. I don't know if it's a lot or not. I know that our governor and lieutenant governor are elected separately. All right, the last one I have on Afghanistan directly comes from the New York Post. Gold Star Dad blasts Biden for checking watch during ceremony for fallen, by Sam Chamberlain. The fathers of 2 U.S. Marines killed in last week's suicide terror attack at the Kabul airport slammed President Biden Monday, accusing the commander-in-chief of repeatedly looking at his watch during the dignified transfer ceremony over the weekend. Darren Hoover, the father of Marine Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, told Fox News' Sean Hannity that Biden checked the time every single time a flag-draped coffin was removed from the hull of the Air Force C-17 Globemaster plane during Sunday's ceremony at Dover Air Force Base in the president's home state of Delaware. We might have to cut the Instagram feed. My phone keeps turning off the camera. They would release the salute, and he looked down at his watch. Every last one, Hoover said. All 13, he looked down at his watch. Mark Schmitz, whose 20-year-old son, Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, died in the attack, corroborated Hoover's story. And there is the photo of it right there. I can't corroborate if it was every single one, but I can corroborate it happened at least once because there's the photo of it. I actually leaned into my son's mother's ears and said, "I swear to God, if he checks his watch one more time," Schmitz recalled. That was only probably 4 times in. I couldn't look at him anymore after that. Just considering especially the time and why we were there, I found it to be the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. Schmitz added that his family's meeting with Biden prior to the ceremony didn't go well. He talked more about his own son, Beau Biden, than he did my son, Schmitz said, and that didn't sit well with me. Hoover said he and his family declined to meet with Biden. So there we go. That's what we see coming out of those. Let's grab one that's possibly indirect, but still I think worth mentioning here. Man who killed Lyft driver may have been inspired by foreign terrorist organization, Dallas FBI says. From CBS Dallas Fort Worth staff. What the hell? Why is this in the middle of this article? A note left in the vehicle of a Lyft driver who was shot and killed Sunday, August 29th, suggests the murder suspect may have been inspired by a foreign terrorist organization, said Matthew DeSarno, special agent in charge of FBI Dallas. Authorities on Monday identified the Lyft driver and the shooter, who was later shot and killed by Plano police at police headquarters. The driver, Isabella Lewis, 26 of Garland, was shot and killed by Imran Ali Rashid, 32, when she went to pick him up, police said. DeSarno said that Dallas FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force has joined the investigation by the Plano and Garland Police Department to see what led to the murder and if it was an act of terrorism. Rashid may have been inspired by a foreign terrorist organization to commit these acts, DeSarno said, haven't found any evidence that he was directed by or in contact with foreign terrorist actors. He was inspired by the rhetoric. He wasn't directed to do this. Rashid was also the subject of a counterterrorism investigation from 2010 to 2013. At this point, we do not believe the suspect provided assistance to others or that others were involved in the incident, said DeSarno. There's no indication Rashid and Lewis knew each other. CBS News reports a federal law enforcement source says investigators are searching for a motive for the attacks, trying to determine whether the suspect may have been self-radicalized. Well, given the fact that there is such a heavy traditional element to the Islamic faith and some of the radicals that are over here, I'm guessing he had a look at her and said, okay, I'm going to do this for Allah, and then pulled the trigger. Or maybe she tried to push some feminist or non-binary rhetoric to him. I don't know. That's my guess. That's what we'll see coming off of that. And I don't know, once again, if this is terrorism or not, but it looks like they've had their eye on this guy for a while. Alright, let's talk about January 6th. Rep. Cawthorn talks of bloodshed over future elections as he pushes voting lies. Fully objective, CNN, everybody. Paul LeBlanc and Daniel Dale give us this article. Republican Rep. Madison Cawthorn on Sunday suggested there could be bloodshed over future elections as he pushed false claims about election security and voter fraud. Speaking at a North Carolina County GOP event, Cawthorn repeated the lie about the U.S. systems being rigged and stolen, something he said would lead to one place, and that's bloodshed if it continued. Hong Kong, nothing bad happened. Hong Kong, most popular president in history. Hong Kong, #1, most popular. And I will tell you, as much as I'm willing to defend our liberty at all costs, there's nothing that I would dread more than having to pick up arms against a fellow American. And the way that we can have recourse against that is if we all passionately demand that we have election security in all 50 states, the North Carolina Republican continued. There's no evidence of mass Republican election being Trump appointed. Fuck off. But as GOP lawmakers have embraced the former president's election lies, the U.S. intelligence agencies believe the narrative of fraud in the recent general election and the emboldening impact of the violent breach of the U.S. Capitol will most certainly spur domestic extremists to follow the FBI leaders who are in front of these things. To try to engage with additional acts of violence this year, according to unclassified summary of a new joint assessment released earlier this year. And it's totally not that the FBI is planning. That would never happen, because the FBI is perfectly reasonable. Cawthorn spokesman Luke Ball told CNN in a statement Monday, Congressman Cawthorn is clearly advocating for violence not to occur over election integrity questions. Well, we'll see. We will definitely see. All right, from the Hill, a little bit more Cawthorn. Cawthorn calls jailed January 6 rioters political hostages. Where's the lie? From Christina Marcos. Representative Madison Cawthorn is describing those in law enforcement custody for allegedly storming the Capitol on January 6 in an attempt to stop Congress from certifying President Biden's election victory as political hostages while repeating false claims that the 2020 election was stolen. Cawthorn made the remarks over the weekend during an event with supporters that was streamed on Facebook by the Macon County Republican Party. During the event, which included question and answer session with constituents, Cawthorn cast doubt on Biden's legitimate electoral victory, honk over President Trump, and warned of violence if our election systems continue to be rigged and continue to be stolen. I'll tell you, anybody who tells you that Biden was dutifully elected is lying, Cawthorn said, to jeers from the crowd. An attendee later asked what Cawthorn was doing to support the 535 Americans that were captured from January 6, apparently referring to rioters in law enforcement custody. Cawthorn described them as political hostages and political prisoners. The big problem is we don't actually know where all the political prisoners are, Cawthorn said, and if so, we are able to actually go to try to bust them out. And let me tell you, the reason why they're taking these political prisoners is because they're trying to make an example, because they don't want to see the mass protests going on in Washington. Another attendee then asked, when are you going to call us to Washington again? We're actively working on that one, Cawthorn said. We have a few plans in motion. I can't make public right now, but this is something that we're working on, and there are a lot of Republicans who don't want to talk about this. Dude, this dude is fucking glowing. This dude is glowing. Holy shit. Remember where I said that it could possibly be that the FBI would never, ever, 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 ever try to lead people in an attack of any sort? Dude, this dude is fucking glowing. Honk, honk. Honk, honk. Okay, I have serious concerns about Madison Cawthorn at this point. Because, yeah. I think he is FBI at this point. Holy shit. And I don't think he's wrong about the fact that these people are political prisoners. I don't think that's the case, but the fact that somebody in the crowd conveniently said, when are you going to call us back to Washington? And he comes back and says, I don't know, citizen. There are definitely plans out there for that. Honk, 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 glow in the dark, glow in the dark, glow in the dark. I have questions about that. All right, with that, let's keep going. So I wanted to put this and this next article together with each other because when I say that I don't like DeSantis and his methodology, it's not the fact that I don't like the outcome. It's the fact that it's his methodology, and I'm juxtaposing this next to the federal government and their executive branch overstepping their bounds on the same topic, but going in the opposite direction. So, to read from the federal government first, Education Department investigating 5 states for potential civil rights violations for prohibiting school mask mandates, from Liz Stark. The Education Department's Civil Rights Enforcement arm announced Monday it has launched an investigation in 5 states as to determine whether statewide policies prohibiting school mask mandates is discriminatory against students with disabilities. The department's Office for Civil Rights sent letters to the chief state schools officials in 5 states, Iowa, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Utah, notifying them of new investigations into whether these mask restrictions prevent students with disabilities from safely returning to in-person education in violation of federal law. Opening this kind of investigation, the department said, does not imply that OCR has decided whether there has been a violation of law that OCR enforces. No, they've already decided there's been a violation of the law. Now they have to go find the evidence to go and justify it. Investigations have not yet been opened in Florida, Texas, Arkansas, or Arizona because of those states' bans on universal indoor masking are not currently being enforced as a result of court orders or other state actions, the agency also noted in its release, adding that the department will continue to closely monitor those states and is prepared to take action if state leaders prevent local schools or districts from implementing universal indoor masking in schools or if the current court decisions were to be reversed. Your mask mandate should be your own personal decision, always, no matter what. But this government has got off on telling you that, oh, if you don't wear the mask, that means you're being violent against somebody else and you're trying to force somebody else to get sick. I mean, you see it on Twitter all the fucking time. You see it on Twitter constantly. And now, yes, we have another top-down agency from the executive branch that's trying to enforce their will by any means necessary to make sure that they get their way and none of these individual states can have theirs. And it's coming from the executive. Congress won't pass a law to do it. The Supreme Court will make a ruling on it. The legislature is the one that's supposed to be doing it. But now they're leaving this out to the executive branch. But going back on to talk about Florida in the same breath and going the opposite direction, Florida Department of Education withholds funds in Broward, Alachua counties for mask mandate. From CBSMiami.com team. The Florida Department of Education has gone through with its threat of withholding monthly school board members' salaries who violate Ron DeSantis' ban on mask mandates, even though a judge has already ruled the ban on mandates is unconstitutional. Monday, Commissioner of Education Richard Corcoran announced that the Florida Department of Education has withheld the monthly school board member salaries in Alachua and Broward County. The DOE stated each district has implemented the mandatory face mask policy that violates parental rights by not allowing a parent or legal guardian to opt out of their child as required by Florida Department of Health Emergency Rule 64D ER 21-12. The withholding of funds will continue monthly until each school board complies with state law and rule, according to the Department of Education. We're going to fight to protect parents' rights to make healthcare decisions for their children. They know what's best for their children, what's unacceptable, and politicians who have raised their right hand and pledged under oath to uphold the Constitution but are not doing so simply said, elected officials cannot pick up and choose what laws they want to follow, said Commissioner of Education Corcoran. And once again, I like the outcome. I do like the outcome of this. But it's the methodology. It's the executive branch coming out and imposing their will financially on people because the legislature can't be bothered to get up and fucking do something about it. This is supposed to be legislative. Your rules and your laws are supposed to be put down by people that you elect to represent you to the executive branch that enforces them. The executive branch isn't supposed to be making rules. They're not supposed to be making laws. They're only supposed to be enforcing what the people who represent the people of the individual communities do so. I love the outcome. I hate the methodology. But that's what we're getting off of that. All right. Here's the article I promised you guys yesterday, but wasn't able to do because it was behind the paywall. Eric Clapton appears frustrated with COVID-19 vaccine on new song, This Has Gotta Stop. And we did listen to some of this song yesterday without getting copyright popped. Thank God. But this is from David Brown. And now we have some of the full article here that we can talk about. And we talked about Neil Young yesterday too, which I hope Neil Young will remember. A Southern man doesn't need him around anyhow. In what appears to be the latest salvo against COVID-19 vaccinations and the lockdown, Clapton has a surprise released new single, This Has Gotta Stop, with an accompanying animated video that also addresses the climate change disaster. A bluesy shuffle, This Has Gotta Stop, appears to reference some of the medical issues that Clapton said he experienced after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccination earlier this year, with what he claimed were disastrous results. My hands and feet were either frozen, numb, or burning, he wrote at the time, as he sings in This Has Gotta Stop. I knew something was going on wrong. When you started laying down the law, I can't move my hands, I can't break out in sweat. I want to cry, I can't take it anymore. In the chorus he sings, This has gotta stop, enough is enough, I can't take this BS any longer. Written by Clapton, the song features drummer Sonny Emery and longtime Clapton bassist Nathan East and backup singer Sharon White, and was produced by Simon Clemmy, another part of Clapton's team. A spokesperson for Clapton said there were no plans at the moment for a full album to follow. The video includes images of people turned into marionettes or staring zombie-style into their phones, politicians or government officials addressing crowds, and others holding signs that say liberty and enough is enough. It also includes an illustration of Jam for Freedom, the anti-lockdown UK street performer group that Clapton supports, as well as imagery of a world on fire from an environmental disaster. So, I mean, Clapton is done with this, and it's always amazing to me to see the people who used to worship the guitar playing of Eric Clapton, who are now sitting out here telling us, Clapton's so evil, and I never liked him anyway. Oh, no, I was just pretending to like him because everyone else around me liked him. But I never liked Eric Clapton, and he's always been a sucky guitar player. Eric Clapton is a god on the guitar. He can play better with his offhand than I can play with my on-hand. So yes, go ahead, keep trying to retcon history and tell us that you always hated Eric Clapton, but we all know the truth. Alright. Australia to end COVID-0 policy, not sustainable way to live. From Peter Aitken. Australia is set to end its zero COVID policy after Prime Minister Scott Morrison determined that the country's approach is not sustainable in the face of more infectious COVID-19 Delta variant. Australia has maintained a strict policy of restrictions and lockdowns to stamp out any outbreak, but the government over the weekend laid out a new plan that marks a sharp change in policy. The government will drop the most restrictions once 80% of adults are vaccinated, which the government believes could happen by the end of the year, The Economist reported. Any further action would occur only after hospitals reached a point at which they could no longer cope with new cases but otherwise handle what they can. The Delta variant provided a new challenge for the nation that the Washington Post once labeled as a pandemic success story. The nation responded to the variant by instituting what it called circuit breakers. Any detected cases would result in a lockdown to stop the spread at the beginning. However, Morrison on August 23rd said the current course of action was not a sustainable way to live in this country. Once you get 70% of your eligible population being vaccinated and 80%, the plan sets out that we have to move forward, Morrison said in a video address. Because if not at 70 and 80%, then why? Then why? This cannot go on forever. This is a sustainable way to live in this country. And yeah, that's really honestly the way that you need to look at some of this as we go along too. And as I said, when we read yesterday that Israel has pointed out that, we're at a situation where we could possibly see immunity is more effective if you previously had COVID than if you get the vaccine. Right from the beginning, right from the very beginning, we should have started having the parties, getting our sickest and most vulnerable away from the people, locking them away for a couple weeks, and then just let everybody go out and have great big Victorian pox parties with medical people on standby to take care of the ones who had an anomalous bad reaction to the disease. But just have the big pox parties, get everybody good and sick, and then let them go about their business for a month. And once everybody's big and good and sick and ready to go, then release the olds back out into the world. Seems like a much, much more effective way to do this. All right. What else do we have here? We don't have much more, but I know we're running short on the clock here. Let's do this one, and then we'll do Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. New South African COVID-19 strain is the most mutated one yet, report from Jaren Steinbuch. A COVID-19 variant first detected in South Africa could be more infectious than other mutations and may have the potential of being resistant to vaccines, according to a report. The C.1.2 strain has been linked to increased transmissibility and is said to have mutated most from the original virus, which first emerged in the Chinese city of Wuhan, the Mirror reported. The strain has a mutation rate of about 41.8 mutations per year, almost double the global mutation rate seen in any other existing variant of concern, according to experts at South Africa's National Institute for Communicable Diseases and the KwaZulu-Natal Research Innovation and Sequencing Program. The number of C.1.2 genomes in South Africa has risen from 0.2% in May to 1.6% in June and 2% in July, according to scientists who have found 14 mutations in nearly 50% of the variants that had a C.1.2 sequence. The C.1.2 strain has also been found in the UK, China, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mauritius, New Zealand, Portugal, and Switzerland. The latest South African variant could be capable of evading antibodies and immune systems, researchers said, while noting that additional research is needed. Yeah, people try to tell us that this is a completely natural thing that just came because somebody went to a wet market and ate bat soup from the wrong kind of bat. And yet we look at this now, and this is mutating twice as fast as anything else we've ever seen on the planet at a time. And it came from a city with a level 4 biolab that was studying gain-of-function research. Yo, I smell something fucky here that I don't trust. I'm not saying it's man-made, because that could get you kicked off of YouTube, but I'm saying I have questions. I have numerous questions. One of them is, was this man-made? But with that, we will see what's happening. We got a few more here to finish off with. We'll go finish these off tomorrow, including some interesting ones going off that. But we are out of time for the day, which means that we need to take a second and do the last thing that we always do on a Tuesday, which is Twitter trending. So let's get the trend up here, and let's go see what's trending. On Tuesday, we always do the top 5 trends in the US. So number 1, as we discussed this earlier on, is No Paws Left Behind, commemorating the service dogs left behind following the withdrawal of American troops in Afghanistan. And my headphones are about to die too, which means that we really got to head out of here. So we have a lot of people with their pets up, which Juanita Broderick, top 1. Tigger says, please go back and get them. Melbell61 says, Riley said they're not just dogs, but soldiers, bring them home. Can't imagine life without my dogs. Hashtag No Paws Left Behind. And apparently this is a Posobiec trend as well. So yeah, if you got a pet, show a picture of your pet and tell the world No Paws Left Behind. I like this trend. Plus it gives me a chance to look at some really, really cool doggos. Ride or die, Reggie. I might stay exorbitantly long in this because I really, really like doggos. Bandit says she would share her toys with the service dogs Joe Biden left behind in Afghanistan. No Paws Left Behind. Aw. Alright. Number 2, Jungkook. BTS member Jungkook posts a message for fans on Weverse ahead of his September 1st birthday. Apparently it's Jungkook's birthday. I don't know what his message is going to be. Let's bring this down and let's hear what he has to say.
재밌다.
You know, I thought that they would have sang in Korean. Apparently not. Alright, anyway, that's the number 2 trend. Number 3. We'll skip Tuesday motivations. Number 4, Bishop Sycamore. One of the craziest stories you'll ever see. Bishop Sycamore, an alleged fake high school, reportedly lied to ESPN to get on national television. What? There has allegedly never been a Bishop Sycamore. They played 2 games in 3 days. Their head coach currently has an active arrest warrant. Most of the players are junior college dropouts who are now nowhere near high school age. What? Okay, what is the active arrest warrant for? Faking a football team? I don't know if the active arrest warrant should be included in this unless it's related. We're going to look into that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I am legitimately curious about that. That's going to be on tomorrow's stack. I've got a note for myself for that. Alright, next one. Fall Flannel Seltzer. Number 5. Apparently Bud Light is making a new seltzer and it's fall flannel. Toasted marshmallow, pumpkin spice, maple pear, and apple crisp. Because I guess they have to make everything pumpkin spice too. I guess tomorrow is September, which means that every basic white girl is going to have a pumpkin coming out of her ass. Starting tomorrow. Alright. And the last one we will do is number 6, which is our 5th trend for the day. Moreland. Here's a surprise. Washington has released cornerback Jimmy Moreland per source. Steelers should take a look at Jimmy Moreland if Washington is cutting him. The Jets should use that first pick waiver at Washington cornerback Jimmy Moreland, experienced 26-year-old cover guy with ball-hawking knack and outside nickel flex, would add proven solid starter to unit banking on rookie depth. So apparently Washington has fired their cornerback, and he's a free agent at this point, and a lot of people are saying that we should possibly go out and, or they should go and pick him up. I don't know. I haven't watched football. I don't know any of the stats. I haven't seen a game in over a year at this point, so I can't tell you if this is a good thing or a bad thing. If they want him, go and get him, though. I'm sure we'll do some more sports ball from that. But with that, that's the 3rd chime that my headphones are telling me that they are dying right now, so we should probably switch up the track and head out of here for the day. Let's see. Oh, looks like we've got quite a conversation over here. A lot of people going on here. All right, anyway, we got to get out of here. Let's switch up the track and let's head out for the day. Alright, so thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat with us today. I will be going back and checking on that afterwards because I love seeing what you guys have to say. And remember, if you are just lurking, make sure you get at least one message in at the show because I get the notebook out. Where's the notebook? There's the notebook. Not the crappy movie from the early 2000s, but we got the notebook out, and I will take down your names and give everybody a nice, kind thank you on Friday for chatting in the live chat. And if you want your name read on air, make sure you say at least one message in the chat while we're heading out of here. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow with more contemporary. Special thanks again to Wyatt Birkenhoff for coming and hanging out with us last night and reading the news. I think McLeod is going to be on here next week. I had to touch base and confirm with her, but especially considering the fact it's going to be Labor Day and she'll probably not be at her other job that day. So we'll see what's happening with that. I'll do some confirmation off air for that instead of making plans in the live chat like I always do. And we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary. We will see you then. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.